Okay, so this is the second event of this live series where we explore use cases of AI in proposals and solve questions from peers and proposal professionals live. It's again one of the most valuable things you can get from these events is the solving your questions in real time. Okay, so today's use case is answering RP requirements. This is one of the most obvious and useful ones. It's one that is providing benefits to proposal professionals regularly. And as always in these events, I'm going to describe the use case like in detail, and then give you some practical insights on how to do it yourself, and also show you some tools that already cover this use case so you don't have to worry about any technicalities and can focus on your bidding and proposals. So as a use case, this is this is one that people use a lot daily because I talk with many peers because of my newsletter, Deep RFP, and my content here on LinkedIn. And when you see what AI is able to do with text, with just pure content, the application to answering RFP requirements is quite intuitive. And this is why many professionals are, at least of those who are using AI in proposals, have tried some version of this, and especially those who understood the capabilities and also the limitations of this technology for this particular use case are benefiting big time. And so among all the use cases of AI in proposals, answering RFP requirements is one of the easiest ones to get right. So it's not especially complex or especially problematic, but you just need to take into account a couple of things that I'm going to discuss in a minute. Regarding the practices, so the use case is very narrow. You have an RFP requirement and you need to answer it. This even if it's quite straightforward, and people are getting creative with this, and so the applications vary. For example, one common practice is to use it for writing drafts from scratch, like when you don't have anything but draft inputs and the RFP, and you can use it for going from the blank page to decent draft in minutes. That's one common practice. Another one is to convert drafts from SMEs, which normally they don't write very well. And so you can convert these drafts into advanced drafts that look like something you would put in a proposal, again, in seconds or minutes. And also personally, because besides running Deep RFP, building and running Deep RFP, I still consult for some old clients as a proposal manager in an activity that right now looks more like a laboratory for use cases of AI in proposals. So everything is focus on automating as many steps as possible, etc. But anyhow, I found another practice in this business, this proposal management freelancing activity, very beneficial, which is giving access to your technical experts or to your subject matter experts to these tools. So I give access to these tools to my contributors, and so I managed to offload some of the writing workload to them. So when your experts and other stakeholders have the bandwidth for this, you can then make them iterate with AI before giving you their inputs, which, this way, the drafts that reach you are already very good and more advanced. Yeah, anyhow, so these are just examples of practices people are doing now, including me. But anyhow, I just wanted to highlight that nobody has this really figured out. And what I mean with this, I mean like this whole field of artificial intelligence in proposals. So I believe that most of the use cases are still to be discovered, like the most useful ones and the most powerful ones. So for this one, just imagine that you have a 24/7 writer. And then once you have that mindset, like, okay, I have this virtual bid writer that it's always available and does a very good job, then brainstorm and experiment with it in order to find how to apply this to your particular use case. That's the way to you win at this game, finding what works for your particular case. So as with all the use cases of AI in proposals, managing inputs strategically is key. And in the next slide, I'm going to talk about the two main limitations of AI for this use case. And so basically, deciding what goes into the request for the AI, it's very important because of these two limitations. So let's first define what will be the input for this particular use case. So in this case, you're going to have the RP requirement, of course. Then, because that's what you're trying to answer, then you're going to have your preferences, like for style, for length, for jargon, whatever preferences in terms of the narrative flow you're going to use. Then you're going to have your context information. This is your company background, your highlights, your past content you want to reuse or to have as a reference. It can be standards, it can be plans, it can be policies, etc. So it's all the context you want the AI to know about what you do and your company. And then finally, you have your winning points for that particular requirement. And this is very critical and where most people get it wrong. So to get a relevant response, you need to provide the AI with why you are a good fit for this requirement, what I've called your winning points. Otherwise, you may get a generic answer, or even if it's not a robotic one, even if it sounds great, it's going to be generic unless you provide somehow your information to the AI. And not only your past content and your reference content, which fits into the above section of context information, but your winning points for that particular requirement. That's key. And this doesn't need to be like well written or whatever. It's just even a rough idea or a bullet list with your winning points. Whatever you want the AI to know that how and why you are a good fit for that particular requirement, you need to provide that. And when you do this, it will provide you with two benefits. So more relevant results. The answer is going to be, more technically advanced and more relevant to your customer, to your RP requirement. And also you're going to get less hallucinations, because what we're finding is that the more room you give the AI to improvise, or, the more gaps you leave unclosed or unfilled, then AI tends to fill those with anything that sounds relatable. And so that's why it's important, like if you have some winning point for some requirement, you provide that winning point so the AI doesn't make something up in order to write a win response. So that's very important, and it's simple once you understand it, but it's where most professionals are getting it wrong. And that's why you see all those negative comments regarding AI and AI tools online, like people getting too generic responses, too robotic responses that are just boiler stuff, things like that. Now, there are two traps, or two people is tempted to do two things when they use AI for the first time in order to answer RP requirements. They tend to provide as much content as possible, like even this idea of uploading your whole content library and expecting the AI to figure out how to provide relevant responses based on that. And the idea of getting, so that's one thing people tend to believe, and it's not good for performance. And then the other one is to try to get a full draft in one run, like in one click. So let me clarify these two misconceptions. The technology is not ready for any of these two things, and so the longer the inputs you provide, the less current and relevant your output gets. And also, it doesn't matter what you input, you cannot get more than 2 to 3 pages of high quality content per request. And so this is the status of, and this is not going to be a limitation of any particular tool. This is the status of AI as I'm recording this this live event. And if you see some tools or some vendor promising you otherwise, behind the front end or behind the user experience, this is what's happening. Is like AI is not navigating your whole proposal content library at once, and it's not generating more than 2 or 3 pages in one run. Now, there are ways to automate this and to improve the workflow, so you don't have to iterate so often, but we will get that in a minute. So having these two limitations in mind is clear. So what you do once you have this, you already understand this, so what do you do? What do you do? Well, there are two things that are like best practices when doing this. You focus your inputs as much as possible. So what I've called strategic input management, basically is if you are answering for example, if you are answering some quality assurance requirement, you provide your quality focused content for that. Instead of trying to upload your whole past proposal, you just copy the part that was about quality assurance or project management in that proposal. Common sense, try to not overwhelm the AI with too many inputs. And then the other clear or common sense way of working with this is you work in chunks, like step by step. Instead of providing your whole RP at once or try to answer your whole RP at once, you provide just the set of requirements you want to focus on, or keeping in mind that 2 to 3 pages range. So if you expect something to be like 2 pages answer, then you can use that. If you expect something to be like, longer than that, then what you can do is just to split that part of the RP even in further narrow topics, and then answer those one after the other. That's if you do these 2 things right, like you're gonna be above the 99% of proposal professionals that use AI right now, and never get that type of robotic, generic, or poor answer. I actually think, this seems like a limitation, but I actually think this is very good news, because what it does is that keeps you in the driver's seat. So you still need to guide the AI, you still need to provide feedback on every requirement or every set of requirements. You get this still very active iterative process. So, take this limitation as an advantage and work this way, you will see results. Before moving to the do-it-yourself tips, I'm going to share or a framework on how to address this yourself. Let me share a bonus industry insight that I'm suffering lately because of a recent conference and all the marketing that happened there. So there is right now what I call the RAG hype, which is basically most AI tech vendors in our space, in bidding and proposals, are going big marketing that they do a technique called RAG, retrieval augmented generation, in a way to upload your whole content library. And this technique, what is basically doing is chopping out your content into a database, and then the AI checks that database before providing your answers. Okay, so the approach looks good and works great if you are doing questionnaire-like responses. So if your RFPs look like a long list of questions with short answers, what I call questionnaires like RFPs, then this approach is going to work probably very well. But the moment you are trying to do long form proposals, then the approach, has many flaws. And so anyhow, my point is not even to question the technique. Like, the technique has potential, but my point is that before exploring automating the reference content part, like you're having your whole library uploaded and processed by the AI, you should try the manual process or the manual approach, which is basically copy pasting your inputs strategically to your request or to your RP requirement, and then check for quality. Like if by copying your inputs and managing these inputs strategically, you get the quality you want, then probably considering an automatic solution is a good idea. But if you can reach the quality you want with this more simple approach, which everyone can do, which is use copy pasting, automating the whole pipeline using RAG or any other technique, this idea of uploading your content library is not going to solve the problem. It won't get you there. And it's very likely to reduce the quality and coherence because of the input length. And also, it can lead to an automatic trash generator very quickly. And so that's what I also wanted to share, because I've seen this conversation online, like in the last 2 to 3 weeks happening. And just wanted to clarify that, because I'm getting this question many times in the deep RP sales calls and demos, and just wanted to share this industry insight with you. Now, going for the how to do it yourself approach. Okay, as with any use case with AI proposals, you can always do it yourself with whatever AI power tool you have access to. Sometimes with end consumer applications like ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot. All the times you need to go a little bit deeper, maybe involve your IT team for tuning something, etc. But you can do it. Like, you always can select the right AI model for what you're trying to do. Not all models perform the same when dealing with RP, depending on the RP requirements and the type of proposal you're after. So you will need to try a different, bunch of models, frontier models. I always recommend to work with the top ones to really get a feeling of what AI is capable of. Then once you have the model like performs well for that particular use case, you need to gather the relevant data, maybe fine-tune it depending on your particular situation. This is often not needed, but if it's needed for some use case, you're going to need to do that, and probably it's going to, you're going to need some software development for that. Then you need to select or to provide the right examples for that process, design the right prompts, like figure out how to prompt or how to talk to the AI for this particular use case. And this involves a lot of iterations, like trial and error. The thing about AI, and people are already getting this idea, but still there is much misconception in our space, is that AI is not traditional software. It doesn't work like deterministic software, like you provide your inputs and you get the same outputs every time. It works more like working with a human or a virtual assistant. You need to iterate, provide your feedback. And so for any use case you want to do yourself, you're going to find yourself like iterating a lot with AI. That's required, is normal part of the process of developing these ways of talking to the AI to get your performance or your desired performance for a particular use case. And then you're going to need to make sure the system is ready, available, safe, worry about the confidentiality issues, who's getting your data, etc. And then you start benefiting. So this is the way of doing it yourself properly. It's it's a lot of work. It sounds like a lot of work, and it is. And I know it because I've been building Deep RFP, which is a kit of over 20 AI tools for proposals and bidding, and I've gone through this process many times with my team. And it takes time, it takes effort, it takes knowledge. So it's not the option for everyone, but still, I don't want to discourage you. Like, if you want to develop your own solution for these particular use cases for your organization, you can do it, but it's going to take you, some time and resources. The good news is that you have options to skip to the part where you use benefit from these tools and don't worry about any technicalities or anything else. So that's what I'm going to show you now, is to show you a couple of ways or a couple of tools of addressing this use case. And then, so if you have any questions, you just post it in the comments, and I will answer these once we are done with the demo. So let me share the window with the tools. So for the demo part, I'm gonna use some tools from the Deep RFP toolkit, okay, which includes tools for for many everyday use cases in bidding, like from analyzing RFPs, building compliance matrices. We have tools for writing, editing, reviewing, open-ended cases, virtual technical experts, agents, etc. But for this particular use case that we're talking today is answering RFP requirements. So let's see let me show you one of the tools for the writing tools, writing toolkit. One way to provide, you remember that I've told you that it's key to provide the context. So in this tool, you can provide the context, like your company context and highlights and past projects and experience can be provided for the whole kit. So there is a way in settings, you can copy there your content, and then every tool in the kit is already considering that information. You don't need to input that every time. And then for particular RFP, when you are working with an RFP, the way to provide the context information for that RFP is through this setting. You can sort of give the system information about what RFP you're working on, the scope, the client, and also the languages, because the tool works with more than 15 languages now. And then for answering the requirement, it's just a matter of focusing on the inputs. You don't need to worry about anything else. We have already selected the model that performs best for this use case. We have already optimized and focused and tuned the model if that was required for this use case. We have already figured out how to talk to the AI best for this use case, etc. So you just need to focus on your strategic input management. In this case, let me show you how it works. It's very, very, very simple. Here, you're gonna input your RFP requirement or the part of the RFP you want to answer. Basically, for this demo, I have this requirement that's coming from a website development RFP, and then you provide your winning points. As if you remember, I've just told you that this is so important. Like, okay, this is the RFP requirement, and the tool already has your context information, your background, company background, and context about the RFP, etc. But which topic or what winning point you want to use to develop this response around? So it's very important you provide that. It doesn't need to be like proposal level content, just some ideas, even an email or a bullet list from a meeting, some notes. You just need to put here your winning points. In this case, we can use for the tool, for the demo, that we have a proprietary tool called whatever. We have this many years of experience, and our project manager is PMP certified. And then you provide some information about your preferences for this response, sort of you select the style and you select the length. You just run it, and that's it. So if you have seen here, I've selected one page, but you have another option, which is going maximum length here. So, but again, even if you go maximum length, you're gonna get maximum 2 to 3 pages for each requirement. And so you need to work with that limitation in mind. Like, okay, if I want the response for this requirement to be, sorry, if I want the response to be this requirement to be 2 pages long, then this can be my requirement. But if I want the response to be, longer than that, then I need to split that requirement into pieces. So here you have the response, and you can just copy and go to whenever you are managing the proposal, because we don't focus on that. We just provide tools that solve very specific use cases. So you come here, get your response, and then copy this to your main document and keep editing there. And well, we're not gonna review this live, but if you see some details, it's talking about your experience, the tool we have told the AI that we have, the PMP people, etc. Now, this is the one way of doing it, which is one-off, sort of, here's my RFP requirement, here are my context information, inputs, etc. Here are my winning points. Then you get the response. And also, I wanted to show you a different one, which is a different approach to sort of the same problem that works best when you are trying to develop proposal from scratch. Instead of answering just requirements, you want to develop proposal from scratch. And in this case, we have tools called proposal writing agents and help you. These tools are sort of a workflow that helps you to navigate this limitation of the length in the output and the context inputs. So the first stage in this workflow is to generate an outline or a sort of a proposal skeleton, a structure with the sections you want to develop and what to include under each section. So the tool is going to help you to do that. If you provide your RFP content, then you provide here, you can provide more context about your company, and also you can provide client insights. So if you know something about the client that maybe is not in the RFP and you want AI to know that because of your relationship with the client or whatever, you can do this. You can do that here. And then what it's going to do is to generate this sort of proposal structure, which is not still a draft, but it's a structure on how to approach this particular requirement. So, and you can iterate with it. Okay, with this box here, you can sort of tell it any feedback you want, and it's going to iterate on this outline with you. Now, once you have this outline, when you are satisfied with this outline, you are happy with it, you can move to the next step and say you want to develop this section. So you just copy the title of this section, move to the next stage. And here you basically, so far, what you have done is to agree with the AI on how your proposal is going to look like the structure of the proposal. So you can now focus on developing the response for each of these sections. And this is the good thing about this workflow. Now you just focus on the section you want. Say you want to do, let's select one that's more relevant, technical team and expertise. And then you just copy here your winning points for that section, which again is so critical. If you don't want to get some generic response or some hallucinated response, you need to provide your winning points. We can provide the same demo points we have used so far, and then you select your preferences for the response and click submit. And what it's going to do is to generate the response for that section with your winning points in one page. And here again, you can iterate with sort of, if you want one paragraph, half page, 1 page, or even maximum length, which is going to give you those 2 to 3 pages length. And here you have, the response for that technical requirement in 1 page. And you can also iterate, like if you want to change something or you want to sort of iterate with AI on this response, you can do that using this box here. Let's try, for example, include at least let's sort of ask it about, okay, generating the same type of response, but then closing with a valid list summary. Let's see if it gets that right. And again, you are not working with traditional software, so it's important you understand that this is more like working with a virtual agent or a virtual person if you want, and it's important. So it's important to provide feedback, to be flexible, to sort of guide the assistant to help you. Let's see here, it followed the instructions perfectly, generated the valid points summary, and you have here the technical response. And I wanted to even, this use case is more focused on, these agents are more focused on developing proposal from scratch. But I wanted to show you this because for this particular use case of developing responses for RP requirements, when you have a RP requirement that you want to develop maybe 10, 20 pages instead of just 2 or 3 pages for that particular requirement, because, I don't know, because it's, you feel that's right, or they're asking you for a plan that is, that comprehensive, you can use this tool to first agree on an outline for a particular requirement. It doesn't need to be even the whole RFP, as in this case, we are not copying the whole RFP. We are just copying one requirement. Well, a set of small requirements indeed. And imagine you still, instead of trying to ask this requirement in 2 pages, you want to answer it in like 15 pages. So you can do this exercise. Like you go here, generate the outline, iterate a little bit. Once you are happy with the outline, then you go section after section, developing the final content on your proposal, providing your winning points, and iterating on each result you get. This way you can develop full proposals from scratch. You are not limited by the output limitation of these systems. And you can, the most important and valuable thing I think you get from this is you are still in full command and still fully guiding the AI through your process. So this, again, I believe this limitation of the systems is actually providing huge value to the profession, because you still need proposal professionals to be guiding this whole process. One problem we are seeing with some applications of AI that, for example, can fill up your whole questionnaire. For example, imagine you have. Well, let me talk about this in a second. Now let's move to the. Okay, to the questions, just in case someone there and someone wants to ask some questions, please do so. I'm gonna check now on what I was talking about, which is with this limitation can work in your advantage, because you can guide the AI. You still needed to guide the AI and guide the tools to develop the full responses, and so that's key. Like the fact that you are still in the driver's seat is key. And what we are seeing, for example, with tools that can fill up full questionnaires at once, like the type of RP, you get a list of 100 questions, and you just need to provide the answers that that are somewhere else, because you have answered those 100 times or whatever. And you can use AI with this technique called ROC and upload your whole database of questions and answers, and then you populate that at once. The problem we are seeing with that is that people get really quickly start trusting the AI too much. And the moment you are in a rush with some deadlines and you can click a button and get 200 responses in 1 second, the chances for your team not checking those responses are very high. And the problem with AI is that it still hallucinates some small percentage. So you can you can run some problems there. You don't have this problem if you work the way I show you with long form responses, right? Because you are still required to review and process those outputs. So for tools, if you want to play with the kit, to play with some of the tools you have seen, we have a free trial for the whole kit, uncapped, so no limitations on features and runs. So you can use as many times as you want in a period of 7 days of the tools. And also you have access to the most advanced AI. So we don't cap anything. You can do that in deeprp.com. And also, if you are more interested in insights, not only about AI, but also about how to become better at proposals, I run a newsletter. I send a couple of emails every week to a list of more than 3,000 professionals right now, proposal professionals. And in those emails, I share tips about AI, proposals, but also, industry insights, discuss some topics that are hot at the moment, etc. And also, for example, I include there what we call top jobs in proposal, which is a selection of jobs that are fully remote, with salary disclosed, and with public ratings over 4 stars out of 5. So plenty of free value there in that newsletter if you want to subscribe.